Recording now. Okay, so this is the Zoom session to talk about, I just downloaded, about case study 3 and 4.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And I downloaded it so that I could look at it again, and I made some notes. I just gotta find it.
I think the third one was the hardest for me.
For me, it was the fourth one for some reason.
The fourth one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely thought that these were harder than the first two, which was
Yes.
probably on purpose, but
Yeah, I would agree.
We could go ahead and start. I think I can remember my comment.
Okay.
Can't seem to find my document, so I'm not gonna stress over it. I just gotta open it up. I'm sorry. I'm just now literally walking in the door. I might have to start this meeting over. Does somebody want to go ahead and recap what 3 is about, and we can just start from there while I'm working on pulling it up?
Yeah. Let's see. It's about dispositions, passion to perform. You've hired, it says you hired 3 first-year teachers. So I'm guessing the other 3 that were hired were had some experience because they had 6 openings. And basically what's going on is after a while you realize that the first-year teachers are really enthusiastic, and they've reinvigorated some of the other teachers, but there's some other teachers that you realize are lacking that passion, and so you're trying to figure out how you can sort of get that back. This one was difficult for me because I see this problem in my own building, and I don't know how to really address it without just a whole lot of thinking about the situation. So,
and I think it's one of those things that so often get overlooked because I think sometimes leaders. Oh, let me turn it up. Can you hear me now?
A little bit.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I think sometimes principals or leaders want to just be like, okay, well, they're so close to retirement, I'm going to leave them alone, you know, and that's not fixing the problem. So this one was hard for me too. And I just kind of made note that it starts with the relationship, like having a trust relationship with the teachers. And I made a note to have conversations with them that focus on growth, like kind of taking the mindset of always being like a lifelong learner, and that we all have something that we can gain from that. And then strengthening the PLCs. Because I think if you can build that collaborative culture, then maybe those teachers would want to participate and want to grow and want to collaborate. But that's kind of all I came up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt like, you need to come up with something that's going to make them regain their enthusiasm for teaching, and that's difficult. I thought about maybe along the same lines of the PLC, maybe pairing some of the newer teachers with some of the more seasoned teachers and sort of having them, observe each other and reflect on what was going on in the classrooms maybe. And maybe even do something like peer observation groups so that everybody in the building gets to observe everybody else, so you can kind of see a variety of different teaching styles. I know that lots of times when I go and watch what other teachers are doing, it sort of makes me think about what I'm doing in my classroom and makes me want to try some new things. So I thought that might be one way of helping. And if it wasn't for it being the middle of the school year, I would say maybe look at reorganizing. How could you sort of move some of your teachers around so that they were getting having to look at new content. And when you're looking at new content or a new grade level, you have to sort of go back in and reacquaint yourself with, the content, the curriculum, things like that. So that may be a way to re-energize, but obviously you can't do that in the middle of the school year. So
yeah. What I said was almost a combination of all of that, because I said they can basically just the principal can create a situation where they can use whatever talents they have, because a lot of teachers, they get complacent in, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, I got everything laid out. But they all came in with something special, some special talent. So if you just give them a situation where they have to use something that maybe they hadn't used before. Like one of my teachers tonight, he asked me, he said, well, could you start a crocheting club with the kids? Because I know you crochet. And I said, well, I hadn't done that in a long time, but I could. So that's something different just to get me excited about, being there and just out of my this is what I regularly do.
Right.
Yeah, and something that we've tried at our school is like having, for example, like our goal this year is kind of moving towards personalization of student learning. And so we're kind of like, we started with student like learner profiles, but one step like in hindsight, we were like, okay, we need to back up a little bit and start with our teachers first. Like, what are the teachers' learner profiles and how do they learn best? And so kind of starting with whatever we want our students to do, starting with that with the teachers and modeling that. So, and that's kind of been a way to get teachers kind of engaged and excited. So maybe something like that could help too. It's hard when somebody's not intrinsically motivated. It's hard to get them motivated like that, but I think that you can't just ignore it and say, well, I can't do it for them. I can't make them want it, which you can't, but we still have to put steps into place. And
you got to come up with some type of strategies or something. Yeah. What about doing a buddy system? That's what I just thought of, and pairing some of the older teachers with some of the newer teachers. And the older teachers can teach the new teacher something, and of course the new teachers can teach the older teacher something. So do like a pairing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought about that too.
Pairing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the things I was thinking about with the second question on here that says, how can you ensure that all students receive equal classroom environments or atmospheres? I don't know that you can necessarily have equal environments, but you could maybe try to create equity, which is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I thought about was maybe setting up some kind of system of rotations where, teachers go to different classrooms, and maybe like if you're strong in, multiplying fractions, maybe you go to a different classroom, and you teach, that to,
like do a team teaching type thing.
Yeah, sort of like that. So you're moving people around. Obviously it's not permanently, but you're moving them around in different situations so that they get maybe exposure to, the kids get exposure to different teachers and maybe different teaching styles. And that might also help to spark something in the teachers as well. If they know that they're going to be going into a new environment, they might, think about it a little bit more, plan a little bit more for it.
Yeah. What I said was that maybe you can do the observations and make the observations consistent, and that would help with equity. If everybody knows that we're getting judged on the same criteria across the board, that might help the atmosphere. And another thing I said was do like complete quality control surveys for the staff and the students. So have the students complete quality control and say what you thought you liked and what you don't like, and do an assessment, and then have the staff do an assessment as well. Those are my two suggestions that I came up with.
I like all of that, of what you both said. I'm going to be completely honest. And for number 2, I just circled it and put a big question mark beside it. So that was my response. That one was the hardest for me. I was like, I don't know the answer to that. So, but I like those ideas that you had, because I was struggling on that one to come up with something.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I mean, I don't, you really have to think about that, because you can't, like I keep saying, you can't in the middle of the year cause a big shakeup.
No.
And if one teacher, say in the third grade, is teaching a certain way and is real excited about it, and the kids are excited, and the other teacher in the third grade is kind of humdrum, boring, there's really not a whole lot that you could do to change the personalities of those teachers. So that does kind of make it problematic. Got to get creative, and maybe even pull them in and ask for some input from them on, how could we make this
help you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you can change the person, because you can never really change a person, but you can kind of guide them to where you want them to be. So if you can change some of the guidelines of what you expect, and then they would kind of have to mold differently, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It's kind of like put your own spin on it, Yeah. Here's kind of what we're looking for. What can you do within, the confines of what you normally do, how you normally feel comfortable? How can you make just a few changes to sort of move in that direction, maybe?
Because it's sort of like my son. This week they started using computers, so everybody in second grade got a Chromebook. So it went from them not having computers to now they have computers. So it's the middle of the second quarter, and they really have to do something different now because they have to teach different. So it changes up often.
Mm-hmm.
And that would probably build some momentum also if you just do something different.
Right.
Yeah. So that was number 2. You got something, Lauren?
A way to. I was just going to add something. I think if you can find a way to empower those teachers, like the ones that were the humdrum boring, like you said, Michelle, I think if you can find a way to empower them or make them feel like, hey, I need your help as a leader in this building, make them feel that their help is really needed, then it makes them feel like, oh yeah, I do know what I'm doing. I can lead, or, empowers them to make a difference. So.
Well, that leads me to question 3, because that's exactly, I sort of combined what both of you said for question 3, when they talk about how can you encourage teachers to participate in committees and events. One of the things I said was to delegate leadership over a committee or an event, and then have it change. So have the teachers rotate being the leader of a committee that does an event. Mm-hmm. And then another thing I said was offer some type of incentive for the teacher to participate.
Yeah, I said the incentive piece too. I thought about that. I also thought about choice. Everybody has their own interests and strengths. So are there committees and events that are that would be interesting to some people that wouldn't be interesting to others? I mean, is there a wide variety of things for folks to participate in and have the opportunity to step up? So,
or have maybe the staff suggest some activities that they would be interested in leading up.
Right.
Yeah, I had thought about the incentives also, and I put kind of going back to the premise that they're all our kids, and like we're a team, and really focusing on that. And then I think positive peer pressure can be a good thing sometimes. Teachers can get everyone to kind of get their peers and give them a little bit of peer pressure. Take a few, get them on board, and then they can get the rest. But I think the focus should always be on the student learning. And so I think, if you're having the school committee and the events for, to enhance student learning, then I think that, you should offer the incentives and do all those things to get it done. But kind of go back to the vision of the school committee. Like because some schools just have committees just for the sake of having a committee.
Yeah.
So I think you have to make sure that they're really important first, and then try to make it happen.
I think you also want to sort of play to people's strengths. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like to the point of flattering. I think we were talking about earlier, you're really good at this. Could you help, could you help in this particular role? That kind of thing. Because I think people are generally more willing to participate if they're approached in a positive way and sort of feel like they have something that they can contribute. So that might also encourage participation.
It's kind of like the same thing we do to get kids involved, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Kids.
Yeah. Those are good answers. Do we have anything else for scenario 3? Any other comments?
I think we about covered it.
I think we're
Very
good.
good. Okay. Now this is the one I struggle with was scenario 4. And I have to say from the jump, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but teacher effort, say the word.
Efficacy.
Efficacy. That's what I struggled with.
Mhm.
I struggled with this one too. Because I can understand, it's really easy with beginning teachers and the efficacy issue and being able to support them with mentors and provide professional development opportunities for them and things like that to grow.
Mm.
But when you get teachers who are further along in their career, and they're sort of, in some cases they may even be set in their ways, it seems to me it would be more challenging to figure out ways to help them improve their efficacy.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I thought about was targeted or individualized professional development, where you give the teachers a voice in determining what the professional development is going to be. So instead of having a staff meeting where everybody's doing the same thing, even though you have people at different stages in development. So like if you're doing professional development on rigor, you may have lots of teachers in the building that struggle with that, and you may have a few teachers that are really good with that. So if you do a whole professional development, for a faculty meeting, those teachers that are already really good with that, they're not going to get a whole lot out of it. It's like differentiating in the classroom for our own students. So I think if you can kind of individualize to what they need, give them a voice in how they determine, what the PD is going to be. And that would come from actually having them do self-reflection. I know at the beginning of the year, we have to do professional development plans where we have to go through and self-assess and see what we want to work on for the year. So that would be like a good first step in, what do you think the professional development or which professional development opportunities do you think are going to be most beneficial to you? And then sort of go from there. Because I think we all realize what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are. And if we're not feeling so confident in a particular area, obviously we want to do some things to help us feel more confident and build the self-efficacy. So those were just some of the ideas that I had thinking about it.
So with the career status teacher, maybe we can have them lead professional development for the whole staff about how their particular subject can relate to all the other subjects. Because if I'm thinking this is like a career coach person, a career status teacher. I wasn't sure what that is.
It says in the middle paragraph or second paragraph, after your discussion, you realize that for beginning teachers want to impact their sense of efficacy. You allow those teachers to observe other teachers. And then I think it
next
talks,
line.
Yeah, about
during a grade level discussion with your career status teachers, you believe that more feedback and collaboration would be beneficial.
Right.
But I wasn't sure what a career status teacher was, but I thought it was like maybe one of those career teachers that teach about the different careers or whatever.
Well, in North Carolina, we did have a career status after you taught for a period of 5 or 6 years, depending on if you were lateral entry or just traditional entry. You were awarded career status.
So it's okay.
It's like tenure. But they've state of North Carolina has sort of taken that away, or that option away. So teachers who are beginning in the profession in the last few years, they aren't going to be able to obtain career status because the state has taken that option away.
So I just even looked at the question wrong, because I thought career status was like a teaching position, like a math teacher, a science teacher.
Yeah.
Okay.
It basically means that you've achieved tenure.
You've taught for a long amount of time.
Yeah.
Okay. So how can?
But I like the collaboration idea. I thought about collaborative coaching,
Mm-hmm.
um, observing other teachers, and then meeting and discuss and share what you saw in the classroom and what you thought
So
worked well.
so creating a professional learning team for those for a particular group of teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had thought about the coaching as well, um, and I said even offering like a PD around growth mindset because I think that's something that's so important. It's important for the students, but it's also important for the teachers, especially if in building their teacher efficacy. And I kind of had combined the first question and the second question because I feel like if you do a good job with the second question about leading your staff, then I think that kind of spills into the mindsets of the teachers, and then it
Right.
helps develop that sense of efficacy. Because I feel like it starts with, the principal is the leader in the building, and I think that you have to, as principal, you have to maintain that lifelong learner mentality and the growth mindset mentality, um, and really promote reflective practice. That's something that I had included in my checklist for the APTL task 1, and so it's been on my mind just because that's what I've been doing, and kind of critiquing, I guess, my principal in a way, like trying to see, okay, well, do you do this or do you not? And he really does a good job of promoting reflective practice. And I think it kind of starts there. And so that's what I put. But what I was going to say about scenario 3 and 4, I kind of think that part of the reason why these are so difficult is because you don't really see the change immediately. I think it's one of those things where you're like, am I doing the right thing? I hope this is going to work, but it's kind of like only time will tell kind of type thing. It's not an immediate feedback, immediate results kind of type stuff. And I think that's what we're used to,
Yeah.
and that's what we want. We want to know, okay, give me the data. Did it work? Did it not? And if it didn't, let me change it. And so these are kind of things where it's like, I don't know if it's working or not. So.
You can always almost equate it to like when you're working with students and you have that difficult student and then they have that aha moment and you're like, oh, so you do get it. You did get it.
Right.
Okay. So do we have anything about question 2? Anything else? Because I know you combine question 2 and 3. I mean, 1 and 2. You combine questions 1 and 2.
The only other thing I thought was maybe sort of working together to set some short-term achievable goals so that they could experience some success in areas that they feel like maybe they're weak, and then celebrate those successes. And then that way, you've achieved, this particular goal. Now let's set the next goal and work toward that one. And then when we achieve that one, we'll celebrate that success. And it's like you said, Shamika, it's the same as with our students. When they reach those small goals, celebrate those small goals and then move on. And that makes them feel better about what they're doing and want to move on and to do better and do more. So.
Good answer. Very good. So let's look at the last one. The last one says, you believe that teachers within your school can make a difference. How can you develop a sense of efficacy for the entire school? Mm-hmm.
I think it's all the things that we said. Yeah. And then I wrote, I just put my principal's name and his advice because I remembered that, and because this kind of stuck in my head as I was like looking at this and making notes. I asked him one day because I was like, how do you even like make it all work? Like, because he just makes it, he's really good and he just makes it seem like effortless. And I'm like, how do you make it all work? And he said, my best advice is for you. He said, you hire the right people and then you let them do the job you hired them to do. You trust them to do it. And so I kind of think that kind of all went back to the teacher empowerment and everything, like he does a good job of empowering his teachers to do what he hired them to do. And so that's what I wrote down because I feel like when you're helping develop teachers' sense of efficacy, you have to trust them to do the job that that they can do. So that's pretty much all I wrote for that one.
And that makes sense, because when your teachers feel empowered, then the school sort of runs different. When it's almost like a building block. If the principal's doing awesome, then the teachers will do awesome. Then the students will do awesome, and so it just spreads out. And that's the way you can build the school, is by building up your teacher staff and your staff. Mm-hmm. Good answer. Anything else?
I can't think of anything.
I think that was a great answer, and I think I'm gonna replay this so I can get that quote, because that was awesome. That just summed it all up perfectly.
Yeah, when you said that, I was like, okay, but that's easier said than done. So, but yeah, I mean, I have a lot to learn, and so.
Seem like you have a good leader leading you the way.
Yeah, I do.
That's awesome. Well, we have completed case study 3 and 4. Are there any other last comments, questions, issues, or concerns?
I noticed on the case study, like it printed out 6.
Yes.
But we don't have to do 5 and 6, right?
I saw that too, and I'm not sure. I didn't see it in our list and on our schedule. Maybe 5 and 6 are for next semester or something.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything where we're supposed to. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss it, because it's
not on our schedule, because I had the schedule posted on my wall.
Okay.
So it seems like we're straight. It seems like the next thing we do is, did we say Tuesday we were meeting?
Yes. Tuesday night at 7:30.
Yeah, because we had said that our task.
Okay. And we're gonna do 1 and 2 that at 7:30.
Yeah.
Let me edit my.
Yeah, we can get that out of the way before Thanksgiving, I think, was the reasoning behind that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it'll be fine if we just do 1 and 2 together as one Zoom session, don't y'all? We can get it done in 40 minutes.
Yeah, and we just put that link on both of the feedback sheets. I think that should be no problem.
Yes. That's fine with me.
Before we go, a quick question. Are we supposed to have a Zoom session with Dr. Sumner tomorrow night?
I have it written in my calendar because I had missed the last 2.
Yeah, I've missed the last one.
I don't know how that happened, but somehow I missed 2 in a row. So I wrote it down in my calendar for tomorrow night. I have not received anything from her, like a link or anything, but I do have it written down for 7:30.
Okay. Yeah, I have that in my calendar too, but like you, I haven't received anything, so I wasn't sure. Anyway.
I'm going to try to make that one.
If she sends out a link, I'll try to be there too.
Yeah. And then that'll be, so tomorrow night with Dr. Sumner, and then Tuesday with us, next Tuesday. And then that will be it for next week, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Until the 26th is when our next draft is due.
Okay, and that would be task 3.
And that would be task 3.
Okay, got
it. 10 minutes. So our hearts and minds clear?
Yeah, I'm good.
All righty. Y'all have a good night.
Can I ask y'all one question
about
task 2? How are y'all, have you given thought, because I'm trying to decide as far as like the data that I'm including, because I have my observation data from where I observed, but I almost feel like I need something else. So I thought about sending out a survey to my staff, like with the checklist, and kind of getting their thoughts about how well they think the best practices are implemented. Does that sound?
Yeah.
Like what are y'all going to do?
That's what I was thinking about doing also, sending out a little survey to the staff members.
Okay. And that way I can kind of see if that data lines up with what I had observed. Okay. All right. Because I felt like my data from my observations is fine, but I feel like that's just I'm just one person.
Yeah.
Versus the opinions of the whole school.
I also I thought about using. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
I was just gonna say that's just your perception. It's not.
Mhm.
Right. Right.
I thought about sending a checklist to all of the teachers, but I only have like 20 teachers at the
Mhm.
most in our building, so it's not like I have a big building.
Yeah.
We have a lot of teachers. The problem is getting them to actually respond to
Mhm.
surveys when you send them out.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that survey is a good idea. It's just how much data are you going to be able to collect from that to support?
Right. Yeah. Well, I figure if I'm going to do it, it's going to have to be brief, and it's going to have to be like Google survey or like a Google form or something.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. A Google form would be awesome, where they could just click, submit.
And be done with it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think having it anonymous is probably important too, just so that people are honest.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing, is that the questions of the survey. I have to be careful with that, because like last year we had somebody send around a survey about the principal and about the building and about the atmosphere, and it didn't go very well.
Mm-hmm.
It was turned into a big negative issue.
Mhm.
So my biggest concern is
Right.
the pushback and the feedback, because the principal's going to say, well, let me see the cert, and it's like, no, this is just
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. We have a new one, so we'll see how she reacts when I tell her that that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And maybe just take it, like if you send an email out, maybe just take it from the standpoint of like, I'm doing this for grad school, and your answers will be anonymous. Please take the time to do it.
Right. I'm the only one that's going to see the results.
Yeah.
That's what I was planning to do tomorrow, actually.
Mhm.
Tomorrow, to get it going.
Yeah. Well, we're almost there. The semester's almost over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm tired, so I could tell.
I think we're all ready for a break.
We
Yeah.
made it this far, so we're doing
That's
good.
Yeah, and after this, one down and then 2 to go. So,
Yes.
semester, I guess. So, all right. Well, anything else?
I think that's all.
All righty. The link, Shamika, are you going to send out the link?
Yes.